Our Olympic athletes have returned home from the Winter Games to parades and homecoming celebrations. Two journalists from the daily newspaper in the Adirondacks who covered our local athletes in Sochi are also back home from what for them was an assignment of a lifetime. Our Jack LaDuke has their story.
You know, all the hype going into the Olympics, everything you would read was how dangerous it was going to be, the big security concerns, and I felt safe every moment I was there, and ultimately I was really surprised about that.
That was not the only surprise Lou Reuter and Chris Knight of the Adirondack Daily Enterprise encountered while covering the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. Their very first surprise came when they were selected to go to the 2014 Winter Olympics. But just why were two reporters from a small-town newspaper sent thousands of miles to far-off Russia to cover the Olympics?
The athletes who come from our area, who are born and raised here or live here through the many sports that are based here in Lake Placid, those athletes go on to compete on the world stage, and it has wider relevance.
It's big news here.
It's big news, and we do a good job of covering it.
Coming up with the money to send two people to the Olympics required the small-town newspaper to be very creative.
The grant was the Charles Decker Journalism Award because Charlie was here during the Olympics and he covered it and he wrote about it and he loved it, and then for him to pay it forward is like him being there, you know? So I'm very thankful that they were able to get that grant.
During the 1980 Games in Lake Placid, the Enterprise published a daily newspaper just on the Olympics, a big task for a small newspaper. Once the reporting team was in Russia, they liked what the host had done.
I didn't really anticipate how much infrastructure had been built there for these games specifically. I mean, it transformed the whole mountain cluster where I spent most of my time with, venues and roads and transportation networks, and, it was just amazing to see how much, work had gone into this, and obviously how much money, of course, had gone into it too.
The once peasant government that in the past criticized the capitalist form of government was now spending a whopping $50 billion on the Games, enough to pave over Mount Olympus with precious gems. Despite that, not all the gold glittered.
As a journalist, I was really struck by the image that they were trying to create there. So much was done, to make things, if they weren't ready, look like they were ready. And it was all about how the appearance was, and there, these, as you drive from the airport, the walls that were built up to block the views of things, unsightly things they didn't want you to see. The construction yards, the employee housing, things like that. That the image of this Games was one thing as a journalist that really struck me from all the venues that I went to. That was obviously was a concern to them, but on a lot of different levels, for me, it was, there was the experience of being there as a reporter to cover an Olympics, which was amazing, and see these world-class competitions, these world-class athletes, right up close, and being right there next to them as they're skiing by you up the biathlon course. There was the experience of being in this beautiful setting that I'd never been to before, being in Russia. I never thought I'd ever get the chance to go to Russia, and then being there for to see our locals compete from the Adirondacks was just another level. So it was really this whole, multi-phase thing for me that made it extremely special.
Having two experienced reporters away from the paper meant the remaining staff had extra work to pick up to publish a daily product. Lots of people back here at the Enterprise in Saranac Lake spent hours and hours putting together the stories that their reporter and photographer sent back from Sochi, Russia.
Morgan, our sports editor, had to lay out an extra section every single day, had to go through all the wire photos and stories. We don't normally use AP photos, but we got them for the Olympics. So, for instance, this section every single day. Most days it was 4 pages, but on Mondays it was 6 pages.
Lou Reuter is noted for his outstanding photography appearing in the Adirondack Enterprise Daily. Over there, his lens was primarily focused on the 9 area athletes competing in Russia. While the political situation between Russia and the Ukraine was heating up during the Winter Games, both local reporters said that they saw little effect of it at the Olympic sites. But like everyone else, they had it on their minds and hoping it would not escalate, interfering with the Games.
We really started paying attention to it because it seemed like as the Olympics progressed, the protests in Ukraine progressed, and we actually flew from Sochi into Kiev, and that was the day after the president of Kiev hightailed it out of town. So we were watching more and more news coverage of what was going on in Ukraine, just, kind of know what we were in for flying into Kiev. Things got pretty nasty over there.
The impressions of Sochi will linger in the minds of Reuter and Knight for decades.
The beauty of the area is fantastic. It's it's gorgeous. The mountains are huge. These beautiful snow-capped mountains. Obviously, the site closer to the Black Sea there was just as picturesque. So, in terms of thinking of an Olympic village, definitely it had that feel to me. Obviously there were a lot of other issues that the cost of these games, some of the social issues that were concerns for some of the participants and some of the other countries that came to the games. But, I think, by and large, it served to be a true Olympic host city, and people are going to remember these games for the reasons, for the events, for the competitions, and the things that happened there, which is really what the focus of the Olympics should be.
For Mountain Lake Journal, I'm Jack LaDuke in Saranac Lake.